so much, Pastor. Good morning. Wow, all the way from Minnesota. They said they drove like 14 hours. I will try to speak this morning for about 40 minutes, but it might feel like another 14 hours. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be here, Pastor Russ. Like Pastor Russ said, it was a last-minute arrangement. My wife and I did not know that we were going to be coming to Montana. We bought the tickets at the very last minute, and I wrote to Pastor Russ and I said, hey, we're going to be in your area, and if you guys would like any updates, we would love to share some updates. Otherwise, we are excited just to be with you guys, and we're so very thankful. And this morning is going to be a little strange for me because I don't know why. There's some interest in this morning. So my mother-in-law from Sweden said that she's watching online. So I wanted to say hello to my mother-in-law. And my father-in-law in Shanghai is watching. So we have people, not really, I'm just making this up to make it sound like it's more important this morning than what it is. No, they are. They're watching live this morning, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to them. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Eugene Bach. I work with a Chinese group called Back to Jerusalem, and they have a vision to complete the Great Commission. And December of last year, we were so thankful to have Pastor Russ come and join us. We didn't have very many people that we invited. It was a very small group. We kept it intimate. There was a nature of security that we had to be careful with. Meeting together with some of the top pastors in the entire nation. So I was very, very thankful to have Pastor Russ there because we really do feel like this is like a church for our family. And we feel like we're home every time we're here. So much so that we have our own seating place. When we come, we sit in the same place every time. And so we're very thankful for that. I don't know if you picked up any Chinese while you were in China or not. Not much. Did you learn how to say hello and thank you? Yeah. I can tell you this from experience. I would rather learn Chinese as an English speaker than to learn English as a Chinese speaker. English is such a complicated language, and I don't know why. I don't know if I told you or not, but there were two pastors that came and joined us. Their name was Pastor Xiaomi and Pastor Yu. And I thought about it. I didn't do it because not everybody in the room spoke English when we were together. But I thought it would be great to play on the names of me and you that were there. So pastor's name was you, and the other one was Pastor Me. So that would have been great. Like, who's the speaker today? You? No, me. Oh, I thought it was you. No, it's not me, it's you. So it would have been really fun to do a who's on first kind of, but I realized that would be lost on all of the people there that don't speak the English language, because it's not an easy language to learn. I remember one guy telling me about a Chinese guy who had just learned to speak the English language, and he was learning the rules. I'm still learning the rules. I remember this guy was telling me that a Chinese friend of his was saying, you know, I really like the English language, but the rules are so unique-y. And he goes, no, it's not unique-y. It's just unique. And he goes, oh, see, this is the problem with the English language. It's hard for my tongue-y. And he goes, it's not tongue-y. It's just tongue. Listen, whenever you hear U and E at the end of a word, that's just silent. And the Chinese guy said, okay, I don't want to argue about it. So when you look at the Chinese language and the English language, I really feel like the English language is so difficult to learn. I have been privileged for the last 25 years serving and working together with the Chinese Underground House Church. And I have shared about what I've been doing in China from I think more than once here at Connect. This morning is going to be a little bit different, a little special. Because even though I've been living and working in China for the last 20 some odd years, it has been the other nations serving together with the Chinese that has really opened my eyes to some of the things that are happening in the world today. One of those areas is Iran. I have been working together with the Chinese for more than 20 years in Iran traveling to Iran. One of the things that I love to do in Iran that most people don't know you can actually do is snowboarding. I have loved snowboarding and skiing in Iran. It's one of the most beautiful places with amazing mountains that are basically untouched. I remember one time it's been many years ago, I won't tell you at which time, but I was snowboarding in Iran, and a guy came up to me and he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from America." He said, "America? Why did you come all the way to Iran to go snowboarding?" And I said, "Because I don't believe that the U.S. president is the only American that you guys should see going downhill." So I don't want to tell people what year I said that, because it depends on which year you would like it to be, which president you like the least. But I have loved living traveling in Iran and working together with our Chinese missionaries. And the update that I wanted to give you guys this morning was what is taking place in Iran. There's more than what you might be hearing on the news. There are things that I've been seeing, that I've been witnessing for the last 20 years while traveling in and out of Iran, that I think is absolutely essential for the church to know about so that they can effectively pray. That's why we brought our what we call our Back to Jerusalem bookshelf, which is a series of ebooks that we want to make free for people here at Connect. I don't know if we could put that graphic up again, but basically we have a couple of books on that, what we call the Back to Jerusalem bookshelf, that are available for free. There's about 20 books, I think, available, and you can get 2 of them for free. But I would highly recommend the Jesus in Iran, which I believe is the only book out there that I know of that talks about what is the underground church in Iran, how it is growing, who are the people behind it, and what is their vision for the future. So that one we share in Jesus in Iran. That one is available in audio book as well. And then we have another book called Jihad, The Day I Died. This is a brother that I desperately wanted to bring here to this church, but he was blocked at one point from coming to America. His visa was canceled a couple of years ago, but we were able to work that out, and we would love to bring him maybe sometime in the future. He is someone that if you are reading right now about the military operations in Iran, this book will open your eyes. He's probably one of the youngest military officers in the history of Iran, and this is his true story about how, as the grandson of an Ayatollah, he came to Christ. And I won't give you too much information about what took place, but there is a very interesting period where he was in war, and he died, gave his life in jihad. He was dead. The military brought his body to the morgue. A death certificate was issued. It was sent to his family to come and pick his body up. A couple days later, he said, "Eugene, I remember waking up, laying on the floor of that morgue. They had no space on the tables for the bodies that had been killed during the jihad against Iraq during the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s. But he said, I remember waking up on the floor, and I couldn't really see much, but there was a morgue worker that walked by me. And out of instinct, I just kind of reached out and grabbed his leg." He said, "Eugene, I never saw Jesus walk on water, but that day I saw a man walk on air." And he talks about how God brought him back to life and how he began ministry in Iran. And I've written another book that is available that is about a very special sister of mine that I've worked with for many years. Her name is Nagme Panahi. The book about her life is extremely special because she was there in Iran as a missionary at the beginning of one of the largest revivals that we have ever seen in the Muslim world. You see, one of the things that I want to update you guys about today is about how God is moving in Iran. And as you're watching the war unfold between the U.S. and Iran, there might be a couple of things that you have never heard before. And this morning, I want to take an opportunity to share with you from our brothers and our sisters who are on the ground right now in Iran, asking for brothers and sisters around the world to join together with them in prayer. Now, as I've worked together with the Chinese missionaries have been going to Iran, and I've been going with them, and I've had the opportunity to work with the Underground House Church. And as I've worked with the Underground House Church, I've seen a couple of things that have changed the way that I view the nation of Iran. If you sit at the feet of the Underground House Church in China and Iran, you begin to see nations and people differently. There are a couple of things that I used to believe about Iran that I no longer believe about Iran. There are 5 misconceptions that I wanted to share with you guys this morning, specifically about Iran. 5 misconceptions that you probably share with me that I had prior to sitting at the feet of the Underground Church and learning that I was completely wrong. In fact, some of the things that I thought about Iran were just straight out lie. Like, for instance, I used to think that there was no connection between China and Iran. If I'm living and serving as a missionary in China, I have no business traveling back and forth to Iran. At one point of my life, I was traveling into Iran maybe once every 6 weeks, and it felt so detached from my life and my world in China, until I realized that these 2 great ancient civilizations are very closely connected together. You know that Iran today, their number one trading partner, their largest trading partner is China. In fact, there's a lot of people that may not know this, but during sanctions, China has been getting goods back and forth from China into Iran, from Iran into China, without the world knowing it. Did you know that on May 25th of 2025, China opened up a brand new railway that hasn't really been talked about at all in the news? A railway that goes through 5 nations of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, all the way to Iran. This cut all water shipments by a third. Instead of 30 days, it took 10 days to send goods from Iran to China, from China to Iran, bypassing all sanctions. Because when you go by the waterway, there's many different ways that the international community, the United States, the United Nations, the European Union, have to make sure that there are not goods going back and forth that are unauthorized to Iran. But with the back door, train tracks going back and forth between Iran and China, there was more than 50 tons or 500 tons of goods from May until December of last year that nobody really knows anything about. Not only are they the largest trading partner, they are religiously connected. For generations, there was a road that connected Iran together with China. The great Chinese empire with the great Persian empire were connected by a road that was called the Silk Road. And along the Silk Road traveled missionaries. The very first missionary to China was from Iran. That church that the Iranians built 1,600 years ago is still there. That's the oldest church in China, and it was built by Iranian missionaries. Do you know how many people are going to be using AI and Google after this service, checking on all the stuff that I'm saying? It's okay, I'm leaving, so if I'm sharing anything false, I'll be gone before you find out. But you have the very first missionary into China from Iran. The oldest church in Iran is in a city called Tabriz, and it was rebuilt by the Chinese empress as a thank you for sending missionaries to China so many years ago. So when I think of China and Iran, I don't see them as being connected, but they very much are. Today, we have many Chinese missionaries serving in Iran, thanking the Iranians for the missionaries that they sent to China. so many generations ago. The second kind of lie or misconception that I've had about Iran is that Iran is Arab. The Iranians are not Arab. Iranians are Asian. A lot of people always mistake the Persian people, the Iranian people, as being Arab, but they're not Arab. They're Asian. They're Persian. It's completely different. Different history, different language, different food, different poetry. Really rich and deep. These are things that I didn't realize until I traveled to Iran and spent time with the underground church in Iran. The third thing that I think I had a misconception about, that I was maybe lied to about, is that Iran is Muslim in their culture. Iran is Muslim in their history. Nothing could be further from the truth. They became Muslim through force. The people in Iran are Muslim today in the same way that slaves are born into slavery. They didn't choose Islam. They were forced into Islam. Their nation was conquered, and in that conquering, they were forced to convert or die. In fact, do you guys know how we have the name Iran today? Do me a favor. When you read your Bible this week, try to go and read from the book of Esther. This has been the beginning of this month. March 1st was the day of Purim. Purim was covered in the book of Esther, which I'm going to look at just briefly this morning. But in the book of Esther, that tells a story that the Jews celebrate every single year. And this year, Purim fell on March 1st. The eve of Purim was when the first bombs landed on Iran. And all the Jews around the world together on March 1st read the book of Esther. And when you read the book of Esther, or you read your Bible in general this week, do me a favor. Every time you see the word Persia, substitute it for Iran. And you will see a nation that God called, that God started with their leader, with their founder, King Cyrus. It says, when King Cyrus came to power, he was called by God and used by God. You know, King Cyrus is the only foreign leader described in the Bible to be given the spirit of Yahweh to be able to carry out his task. We don't see that with any other non-Jewish leader. The book of Esther talks about Persia in a way that when you switch it to Iran, it will transform the way that you see Iran forever. Do you know why we switched from the word Persia to Iran? In the 1930s, there was a guy in Europe who believed that the master race were the Aryans, and they originated in the plains of Persia. And the people in that area refer to themselves as Aryans. Iran means land of the Aryans. And the very first letter that was written to the nation that had this new name, Iran, was a guy by the name of Hitler. And they began to work together using this new name, Iran. You know, for many years, people have seen Iran as a Muslim nation because once you steal away the history of a people, you tell them that they are something other than what they are, they begin to believe it, and over time, it is accepted as general knowledge. But working together with the underground church in Iran, I learned that the people of Iran are not Muslim by their culture or by their history. They were called by God. When you start to read in the Bible about how God used the Iranian people, you see that God set the Jewish people free from Babylonian captivity through the Iranians. God moved through the Iranians to be able to rebuild the temple again. Has anybody here ever seen a movie called 300? Yeah? Not me, because I'm a Christian. No, if you've seen the movie 300, there's the main leader there, King Xerxes, right? He's honored as this god. Xerxes, that is covered in that movie, is the husband of Esther, talked about in the book of Esther. This is someone that God used and in fact wrote an entire book about how he called their nation and used their nation for his purposes. You know, the book of Esther is the only book in the Old Testament or the only book in the Bible with a Persian name. Esther is a Persian name that means star. It was the name of an Iranian queen. You see how things start to change when you start to use Iran for biblical references instead of Persia? The enemy likes to separate the history in that way so that we don't catch it, so that we don't see it. So the thing that we are seeing today in Iran, I believe, is directly connected to their history and God's calling upon their people, upon their nation. Now, the lie that I feel that I want to talk about this morning, the fourth one, is the idea that today the church has no involvement whatsoever with the war that is taking place in Iran. I believe that to be a misconception just because of my own personal understanding of the Bible. You see, what I am seeing today, I have been convinced that the violence that I am seeing played out in Iran today is a direct reflection of the spiritual battle that is taking place in Iran. Now, you may not completely agree with that. You might just think that we got a few hotheads on the international stage and they're just butting heads while they're disagreeing about international policy or what to do about the nation of Israel. But I have been persuaded that what we are seeing play out on the television today, on the internet today, as we watch the news of U.S. strikes and Israeli strikes and Iran striking everywhere else and other people kind of coming in and joining into the fight, that this is a culmination of years of spiritual warfare. Now, you may not agree with that, but the Bible is very straightforward about the influence of the spiritual world on the physical world. In fact, if you read the book of Daniel, chapter 10, you'll see a very interesting story take place. While Daniel was a prisoner in Iraq, the ancient land of Babylon, God gave him a vision that there was going to be a war coming. And Daniel began to pray. And then after a couple of weeks, he sees an angel that arrives. Does anybody here remember what that angel said? He said, I was delayed. I'm sorry, I would have been here earlier, but I was delayed. I was delayed because the prince of Persia resisted me. This idea that there was a spiritual battle that was taking place is opened up for us to look into just a little bit in the book of Daniel. And I won't dive too deep into that this morning, only to point out that there is a spiritual element to the world that we see. The Bible is very clear about that, not just in the Old Testament, but in the New. We see in Ephesians chapter 6, when Paul is telling us to put on the whole armor of God. Why do we have to put on the armor of God? Because Paul says that we fight not against flesh and blood, but against darkness and principalities and high places. We also hear Jesus himself, when he's talking to the disciples, what does he say when they ask him, Jesus, how should we pray? He says, pray like this, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We get so many places in the Bible that reveal to us that much of what we see in the physical world is a direct reflection of what is happening in the spiritual world. And I believe the same is true today for Iran. So today, very simply, I want to bring you a report on what is happening with the church in Iran. Because as I set before you today, I can tell you there is a battle. There's a battle for the souls of the people of Iran. Think about this. In the year 1979, when the Ayatollah regime first came to power and made Iran an all-Islamic nation, there were only 500 known believers in the nation of Iran. 1979. Today, there are more than 1 million, some people say as many as 5 million believers. This took place, by the way, without freedom of government, without a constitution that allowed freedom of religion. This was without freedom of speech. This was without Christian TV or access to Christian media on the internet. This was without Bibles even being available for many of the people. Would it blow your mind away if I told you that the majority of the Christians that I meet with in Iran today came to Christ because of a dream? That Jesus spoke to them in a dream. That there is something moving in the spirit in Iran. And as we see the Spirit moving, there are people crying out for the one true holy God. And the enemy that has controlled Iran for generations is not letting it go without a fight. So there is this push and pull. The enemy is clawing in, digging in. That's why we are seeing such aggression against Christians in Iran. This has been spiritual warfare for the last 2 decades. So it doesn't surprise me that now we are seeing physical war in Iran, because I've been seeing spiritual war for years in Iran. I've been listening to the testimonies in the last week or two from our friends that are on the ground in Iran, and they've been writing back and forth to me saying, Eugene, please keep us in your prayers. Eugene, this is what we're going through. Eugene, we don't have enough money to buy food. We don't have enough money to buy medicine. Can you help with this? And we've been trying everything that we can to provide the immediate needs that the people have on the ground. And one of the things that they've been telling me is that, Eugene, it's quite amazing that you have been praying for us to have safety. And believe it or not, we feel relatively safe. We have church members in Iran that said, it's amazing that when the bombs first started dropping, February 28th and March 1st, that everybody went into hiding. But after a couple of days, in the first week, many of the Christians began to go to the rooftops, noticing that the bombs weren't targeting them, noticing that they could stand and watch as the bombs dropped on military targets and government targets, but not in their neighborhoods. They believe that that is the result of Christians praying together for their sake. But if you're a parent here this morning, if you've got small children or grandchildren, you know what it must feel like to be in your home, even though you might feel safe. That feeling of uncertainty and fear for your children as your bedroom in the apartment buildings begin to shake from the bombs going off outside, as your bedrooms begin to rattle, as items on the shelves begin to shake and then fall off. We've been hearing from parents who said their children have been scared. So they've gone to be with their children and began to sing praise and worship songs so loudly that they forget that there are bombs dropping outside. Children that are afraid suddenly find comfort in the name Jesus as they praise his name. And though it's dangerous outside, they feel the protection of a loving Father. See, in 1979, there might have only been 500 believers. Now, if it's true that there are 5 million believers, which I think could be the case. Why? Because we've been working with the Underground House Church, and actually this year we got an order for at least 500,000 Bibles. You don't print 500,000 Bibles for 1 million believers. So we believe there very well could be 5 million believers. But if it's true that there's 5 million believers, that means that basically for the last 20 years, we've been seeing more than 500 people come to Christ in Iran every single day. This is a revival on a magnitude that we're not witnessing in any other Muslim nation. Do you think it's strange that there's a battle going on right there, right now? I think it's a direct reflection of the spiritual warfare that is happening every single day. The final point that I feel that I was a little bit lied to, or I believe the lie, I should say, or I had the misconception about, was the fact that I have no role to play in what is happening in Iran today. That is a lie. Even though Iran might feel for you to be across the other side of the world, it might be thousands of miles away, I'm telling you that today the church in Iran is asking for your prayers. Brothers and sisters that are not our enemy, but are under the same family as you and I. We have the same Father. You and I are worshiping the same God this morning as our brothers and sisters in Iran. And not only are we seeing people come to Christ in Iran, we are seeing Iranians leave from Iran and become missionaries in other nations. Today, as I sit before you, there are missionaries from Iran in Afghanistan that have been called by God to leave their homes in Iran and go to Afghanistan and preach the gospel. I just got a report 2 weeks ago from one of our missionaries that is serving there. Said in the month of February alone, they baptized 100 new believers in Afghanistan. Amazing. We did not see that at any other time in the last 20 years in Afghanistan, but now we're seeing God use his people. The Taliban took over. You would think all Christian activities are over forever. But God is moving in, and he doesn't give a rip about their laws. He doesn't care about their boundaries or their borders. He doesn't do border control. He doesn't worry about walls that are put up to keep people out. God is moving into their nation in a way that is freaking them out, which is why they are unleashing these attacks and persecution against the people in Afghanistan. We've been working together with the Iranian missionaries to help children. I can't give you too many details because of security, but I can tell you this. Right now we have 200 young children that are studying the Bible every day in Afghanistan, both little boys and little girls. Little girls are not allowed to go to school, but they're going to our Bible school. They asked me, they said, Eugene, would it be possible for you to share some of the pictures from our children's training here in Afghanistan when you're speaking at the church on Sunday? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. But then I began to look at some of those pictures, and I thought of myself with those children in Afghanistan. And as I looked at them more and more, I felt like they kind of looked like a hostage situation. And some of my fundraising for those children might be more like a list of demands rather than fundraising. So I thought, no, I'll just tell you about them rather than show you photos. But precious, young children that God is speaking to through Iranian missionaries in Afghanistan. But when we think about what can we do to help, I want to take you to a verse in Esther chapter 4. I'm just going to quickly look at one verse in the Bible, well, two verses, one section of the Bible. Esther chapter 4 verses, let's look at verse 10. If we look at, 12. Esther chapter 4 verse 12. I'll skip over 10 and 11. And we'll look at Esther chapter 4 verse 12. If you're not familiar with the story of Esther, it's a phenomenal story. It is one that really goes back to other parts of the Bible and links in a unique way that most people, if you don't understand the rest of the Bible, you may not understand the book of Esther. But Esther shows things that are not seen anywhere else. And I think it has a specific message for you and I. For you and I that might feel unqualified. Maybe you're sitting here this morning and you're much like me and you're like, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a layman, I'm not a clergy member. What role would I have to play in Iran? Or I don't have resources, I don't know much about what God is doing. I've never even seen a miracle in my lifetime, like a real, solid, confirmed miracle. Eugene, I'm a new believer. I don't think I really play a role in what's happening today in Iran. That's why I love to take everybody to the book of Esther, because it's unlike any other book in the Bible. It's the only real book in the Bible that we see where God is not specifically mentioned in any way. There's no prophets, there's no priests, there's no ministers, there's no miracles in the traditional sense, in the biblical sense. So Esther kind of sets aside from the other books of the Bible. It's also the only book of the Bible with an Iranian name. It starts in Iran, it ends in Iran. The entire book takes place from beginning to end in the nation of Iran. That book, I feel, if you feel that Iran really doesn't apply to me because I don't carry any of those special gifts, Esther has a story for you. And there's a character, there's three main characters, kind of four if you look at the king of Iran. But if you look at the main kind of enemy in the book is a guy by the name of Haman, and Haman has a real beef. Haman comes from a tribe or a group that was born out of persecution from the Jews. Specifically, he comes from a group of people that were annihilated by King Saul, his Nagagite. And if you remember anything about the story of King Agag, Saul kept him alive, and that was the wrong thing to do, and he was punished for that. That was the Passover from Saul to David. If you remember that story at all, if you don't worry about it. But you go back in that story and you see that this person has a grudge against the Jews, and not just any Jews, Mordecai specifically, because Mordecai was from the tribe of Benjamin. The Bible says that. Esther tells us these details, and at first you might think that the details don't matter. Like, oh, you're just walking down the street in the Bible and the sky is blue and the grass is green and there's a Benjamite. But everything has a purpose in the Bible to reveal to you. It's linked to other portions of Scripture. And so you have the King Agag coming again to King Saul, and King Saul being responsible for killing all of King Agag's people. And now Haman has this real beef against him, and he wants to annihilate all the Jews. So he develops this scheme. This is the footnotes version. He develops this scheme to be able to have all of the Jews annihilated. This is really Satan moving so that you can stop the coming of Jesus Christ, coming of the Messiah, the removal of all Jewish people from the earth forever, which always seems to be a goal of the enemy. And so as we see this story unfold, Haman gets his way, and the king makes a decree that all the Jews will be annihilated. There's this genocide order that says everybody has the right to kill Jews on this special day. And so Mordecai makes a plea to Esther. He comes to Esther and he's like, please do something. Go to the king and stand on behalf of the Jewish people. But there was a delay. There was resistance. There was not an immediate answer from the queen, Esther. And so this was Mordecai's response when there was a delay. Esther chapter 4, verse 12. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, my Bible might read a little bit different than yours, but it says, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arrive from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows? But you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. It's so easy for us to say, you know what, it's not convenient. You know what, it's dangerous in Iran. You know what, I'm so far away. I live here in Bozeman. I have the comfort of Bozeman. This is where I'm just going to kind of stay and hide from my calling. And we choose comfort sometimes over our calling. And by the way, a calling to Iran doesn't mean that you need to get on a plane and fly to Iran. In the words of one of my modern day heroes, John Piper, a missiologist like no other, he said, when it comes to missions, Christians only have 3 choices: go, send, or disobey. Those are the only 3 choices that you have. Either you're going, or you're sending, or you're disobeying. And this was the message to Esther. Will you go? Will you send? Or will you disobey? When Esther hears this message, she finally steps out of her comfort zone and speaks on behalf of the Jewish people, speaks on the behalf of God's people to see God move and rescue them. Today, I come as a representative from my friends, my friends that I've been working with for many years in Iran, to share their desire for us to join together with them, to pray for them, to pray for their situation and their safety, but more than anything, to pray for God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. And one of the most amazing things, do you remember how God rescued the Jewish people from annihilation? The genocide that was planned? The king gave an edict, by the way. King Xerxes could not take it back. Once he gave a command, it was like a command from God. So once he said, annihilate the Jews, there was nothing. Not only was there nothing that Esther could do, there was nothing the king could do. The king could not take that back. The king did not take it back. Do you know how God rescued his people? The king had to issue another order. This order was different. It was to the Jews. We see it actually if we go down a little bit further into Esther chapter 8, verse 11 and 12. It says this: the king's edict granted the Jews in every city the right to assemble and protect themselves, to destroy and kill and annihilate the armed men of any nationality or province who might attack them and their women and their children. It was basically the Second Amendment. He gave the Jewish people a Second Amendment. He basically said, if you want to survive, you can fight for yourselves. God put them in a position to be a blessing to their people. I believe that God has put us in a position to be a blessing to his people. I've often told people about a story that I heard long ago on an old television program that I used to love called West Wing. And in that television program, there was a guy that gives advice to the fake president on that series. And I changed it a little bit. I don't remember the story, so just indulge me for a minute as I try to tell it again in a less accurate way. But basically, it's a story of a man that was walking down the street, and he falls into a hole in the road. And as he falls into this road, or into this hole in the road, he calls up to people that are walking by for help. And one of the guys that walks by is a humanitarian. And he asks the guy, hey, can you help me out of this hole? And the humanitarian said, yes, I can. And he leaves. And he said, I will go and I will raise money for you. I will do a fundraiser. I will come back. We will do a ribbon cutting ceremony. We'll take Facebook photos, Instagram videos, and we'll pull you out. The man never comes back. A pastor walks by, and the guy down in the hole calls out to the pastor that is walking by and says, "Hey, pastor, can you help me?" And the pastor said, "Yes, I can. I'm going to go back to the church, and on Saturday night, we'll have a special prayer meeting for God to send somebody to pull you out of this hole." The pastor never came back. Then another man walks by, and the man calls up from the bottom of the hole to the man walking by and says, "Hey, can you help me out of this hole?" And the man jumps into the hole. And the man that was in the hole said, "Great, now we're both in here." And the man that jumped in said, "Yes, but I've been here before, and I know the way out." God has put you in a position with knowledge and resources and friends here in Bozeman, specifically to help those that are in Iran today. We were able to send some aid to Iran, and I got a letter from a dear sister. It's not a very long letter. I'm just going to read a small portion of it, and then I'll end there. It is a letter that I just got, and I was very moved when I saw it, and I just wanted to share it with you guys this morning. It says this: "I am a mother of 2 young children. For years, I have lived in poverty and insecurity. In the past days, because of the war conditions, fear and a deep sense of danger filled my home. I have no money to feed my children. Many nights, when my children went to bed, I knelt down and I prayed through tears, 'Lord, pour out your blessing over our lives.' In those painful days and helpless moments, God heard my prayer. Through your love, church family, the need of my home was provided. When the packages entered my house," we sent some packages to them. "When the packages entered my house, it felt as if God himself had come to visit us. My children looked on with eyes full of joy and with tears full of gratitude. And I whispered, 'The Lord is alive. He has not forgotten us.' Today, with a broken yet thankful heart, I say, your kindness strengthened me. You were the hands of God bringing hope into my home in the hardest of times. May God fill your lives with blessing, and may the same light you brought into my home shine brightly into yours as well. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen." I want to thank you guys so much here at Connect Church for partnering together with us, for praying with us. I know that many of you have even become gatekeepers, and we're very thankful for that. For those of you that stand with us on weekly and monthly, is that my mic cutting? Is that saying time's up? Get off stage? But you've been with us, and you've been praying with us, and you've been standing in the gap with us, and we're so thankful for that. And Pastor Russ, thank you for being so open, being a friend, and a family member for us. We are really blessed by you and this church. May God bless you. Amen.
It's been a couple of months since I talked about gatekeepers. Will you just give us a little more information about gatekeepers?
Yeah, if you would like to be gatekeepers, this is something that is a huge help for us. To be honest, we suck at fundraising. We're horrible at it. We're not very good communicators when it comes to fundraising. So we have a group of people that said, you know what? We just want to partner together with the Underground Church. We want to be there on a monthly basis. How can we do that? So we created a group called Gatekeepers that you can find on our website. If you go to backtojerusalem.com, you'll see a button that says Gatekeepers, and you can join us and become donors every month. And you'll also be a part of a prayer group that we do on Telegram. It's a chat group that you can be a part of that we update on a daily basis about the prayer needs on the field between China and Jerusalem. So it mainly has to do with China, but it can be Iran as well as Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, North Korea, all the different regions where we work. And we give regular updates, and we're so thankful for the people that are our gatekeepers. You know, oftentimes when there's a disaster that happens, like here in Iran, when there's an event that takes place, for us to do the fundraising for Iran will take some time to be able to gather in the funds and send the money onwards. By the time the funding arrives on the ground, oftentimes the needs have already changed and shifted. But because of our gatekeepers who are continually giving, we're able to immediately respond to the needs when the needs arise. And we're very, very thankful for all of those that join us for gatekeepers.